Is that you? Spider-Man? What? I thought I heard Peter.
Alrighty, what is going on, everyone? So today I'm joined by the voice of Mary Jane Watson in Spider-Man the Animated Series. Ladies and gentlemen, Saratoga Ballantine. How are you today?
Hi, everyone. I'm great. I'm doing great in sunny California.
How hot did you say it was? Like 90 degrees?
90 degrees today. Super hot. Super hot.
So how long have you been acting for? Not necessarily voice acting, but just general acting.
Oh, I didn't start being a voice actor. I was a regular actor. I mean, I wanted to be an actress since I was a little girl. And I had to beg my parents, to let me do this. Because nobody's parents want you to go into a business where, of course, you don't know if you're going to make a living ever. And they don't want to support you till you're, 100. So
Right.
I knew since I was a little girl. And I took acting class when I was about 9. When we moved to California from New York, I started taking acting class and dancing classes, tap, ballet, jazz, voice lessons. I just really knew I wanted to be in show business. I wasn't sure what my niche was, but I knew I wanted to do that.
Yeah. What was it sort of about acting that made you decide to go in that direction?
I think, my father was a magician and my mother was a cabaret performer. And I saw their glamorous lives, and I loved them very much. And they took me everywhere. I was one of those kids that they never hardly left with the babysitter. They would just, take me to the theater or take me to the club or, put me in a corner and I'd just watch. But the first show I really remember seeing was Gypsy. And I loved it. And I told my parents that night, I really wanted to do that. And my mother said, "Carl, isn't that sweet? She wants to be an actress." And I said, "No, Mommy, I want to be a stripper." Because in the show, there were 3 burlesque dancers. And that's what, my initial inspiration was. Because, there's glamour and feathers and costumes. And
How old were you at the time that you thought that?
35. No, I was 4. Yeah, I was little. I was dazzled. I always wanted to be in show business. I really never varied. I've done some other little jobs, in my life, but that was always what I knew I wanted to do that. Luckily, I was lucky. I was able, not everybody can have, the good experiences. A lot of people are very talented and they don't get opportunities. So I consider myself very lucky.
So what were some of the things that sort of interested you about changing from acting to voice acting? Like, what was it sort of about the role of Mary Jane?
Mary Jane was really the first cartoon that I auditioned for. But prior to that, I had done a commercial for Starkist Tuna that in the States, and I don't know if they have Starkist Tuna in Australia.
Not sure, I don't think so.
No, it became a really famous commercial because there would be like this sort of hipster goldfish. And then I was this little red sequin slinky goldfish having dinner with him. And the idea is he's trying to impress me. And I go, "Oh, Charlie, Starkist don't want tuna with good taste. They want tuna that tastes good." And that became a job that I did for many years.
Wow.
So that was my foray into voiceover. I had done a play, I had done Guys and Dolls, where I used that voice. So I had just done a character that had the voice. So then when I auditioned for Spider-Man, years later, 5 years later, something like that, I thought they wanted, some interesting voice, something really that took every ounce of my creativity. And they went, "No, we like your regular voice. Just use your regular voice." I'm like, hallelujah. So Mary Jane pretty much was how I sounded. And
Right.
what better job can that be than to not worry about your hair or your makeup and be in a room with so many talented people like Ed Asner and Christopher Barnes and Mark Hamill and Marty Landau. Marty, we're like this. Martin Landau. But, I'd look around the room and I'd think, I'm the only person in here I've never heard of, because they were all wonderful, talented actors. So I felt very, very lucky and fortunate. And it was pure luck. I what can I say? I have a nice voice, but it's nothing to write home about. So they just liked my acting. They liked the way I acted the character.
So were you a little bit starstruck when you're voice acting and then Mark Hamill walks in? You're like, oh, that's Luke Skywalker.
Sure. Oh, sure. Yeah, no, he was pretty special. There were a lot of, Malcolm McDowell did some episodes. I mean, they really got great people to do it, because that was sort of the beginning in the 90s of more celebrities doing animation. Now it's practically completely celebrities doing it. But then they were hip enough and clever enough to sort of pepper the voice world with a few names. And, you know, Ed Asner's J. Jonah Jameson was so fantastic. And, you know, they just got really good people. Not everybody has the experience of being in the room with the other actors. Sometimes you go by yourself and you watch a screen and then you have to act to the picture. But we didn't do that. We were all in the room together. So it felt like, you know, we were with our fellow artists acting.
So when you were doing the voice acting, did they have the animation on screen, or was it just sort of, was the animation afterwards?
No, not at this time, not at this juncture. We did the acting, you know, and then we had a director who pulled certain performances out of us, and then they sent it overseas. It went to Japan, where it was animated.
Right.
And then that they put our voices to it.
So when you auditioned for it, how familiar were you with with Spider-Man? Because this was sort of the early to mid 90s where the Tobey Maguire movies hadn't been released yet. So how much did you know about Spider-Man at this point?
Well, I know about it from the comics and I knew it was famous, but here's a funny little sidebar. My mom, Ceil Cabot, was on the album, the Spider-Man album with Rene Auberjonois, who was Spider-Man, and my mom was Aunt May.
Oh, really?
She did the voice of Aunt May on this album. Yeah. Somebody on some other podcast knew the name exactly of it, and some fans said they were going to get me a copy because I don't have it. But yeah, so I knew a little bit about it. And plus, you know, Spider-Man is a famous, you know certain characters in animation because Archie and Veronica, and you know them because we read the comics. So I knew a little bit, but I didn't know Mary Jane was such a iconic, complex character. She has many layers, and I didn't want to play her one-dimensional. You know, she has dreams and hopes and her own strength, and you know, didn't just want to be saved all the time. You know,
right?
She did get into trouble.
Yeah, she did get into trouble. She wasn't sort of the typical damsel in distress. She had actual things going on as well, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So
yes, actually, and she wanted to be an actress. In one episode, they let me be doing Shakespeare in the Park, which I of course loved because I'm a frustrated Shakespearean actress. That's the truth. I went to London when I was not that young, but you know, early 20s to go to Lambda, and I thought I'll come back to the States and I will just be cast in every Shakespearean play. And I got one play. I did Titus Andronicus. And if you know that play, Lavinia gets her hands cut off and her tongue cut out, and she spends most of the play moving eloquently. So there, another dream dashed. But hopefully I will still, there are a lot of nice old parts in Shakespeare I can maybe try for.
So when you were recording in Spider-Man, was it, so you mentioned before, was it like all of you in the same room, or was it like sort of individual booths?
No, generally speaking, we were all in the same room. Now, the only time we'd be individual is if there was a, what they call a pickup, where something didn't quite work, you know, and then they'd bring one or two of us back to redo it.
Right.
That's very rare that happened. Ed Asner, for instance, he could just close his eyes and go to sleep for 10 minutes. You know how some people have that ability? They say geniuses have that ability. And he would wake up and just, ready to go, I can't do that. I shut my eyes, I'm out for 4 hours. So, no genius, it's a fact. But we were all in the same room, generally speaking.
Right. So what are some of the weirdest differences between on-camera acting to voice acting?
I've been an actress my whole life, and I'm not super famous, but I've done it my whole life. When you're acting in voiceover, the only difference that I feel is it all has to come through your voice. You can use your body to make, if you have to scream or be furious, or if you can use your body to help you. But when you're acting on camera, it is a lot about how you look. Right. You're very limited on camera, and I think animation gives you that freedom to act in all the kinds of characters that maybe you wouldn't get to play by how you look. Yeah. I could be a little duck, or I've been a candy bar, I've been a car, well, let's face it, I would never be cast on camera as a car, but you know what I'm saying. It's like you your voice can really do a lot more. So it's very freeing. It's wonderful. On camera acting is still a challenge, but it's a different muscle, I think.
Yeah, it's weird how it's sort of different a character you can play. Like, there's a lot of, like, female voice actors that play, like, young boy characters, like Ash from Pokemon, Gohan from Dragon Ball Z, sort of like, it's weird how universal your voice can be because there's no visuals sort of getting in the way, so...
Yeah, there's some voice actresses that I really admire because they can do so many different things. And what I have found for me, I have a niche, I have a very nice voice, very sweet voice, but I'm a really trained actress, so I can do a lot with my voice. So if need be, I've done some video games where I have to be a general and command an army and scream and, be mean. I can do all that stuff.
You're not going to use your natural voice for a commanding officer.
No, it wouldn't work. It's just, come on, let's go. Get into the fray. No, it's got...
What were some of your favorite scenes from the Spider-Man animated series that sort of either the script was really good or you think your performance was really good? Like, sort of what were some of your favorite moments from that?
John Semper, who wrote a good deal of the scripts and is a friend to this day, is an incredible writer. And he wrote this beautiful episode, and I don't, my father was alive at the time, but he wrote this episode where Mary Jane is looking for her father, and she finds him in a cult, or she thinks it's her father, right? It's not. It's a beautiful episode. I mean, it felt to me like, well, I could have been up for some kind of acting honor for that. I was very real, and I don't want to leave the cult. The cult's sucking me in because I think my father's here, and it's just a wonderful life for me. And, we're going to eat vegetables that we grow, and, it's going to be, this is the way it should be in my life, but it's a trick.
Right.
And Spider-Man has to come and get me out. I love doing that. Oh gosh, there were so many of them that were really meaningful and fun to do. I got to get my dad on an episode. My dad had a wonderful voice, and he was on the cartoon Garfield a lot. He played Garfield's manager.
Oh, cool.
And there was a whole campaign, they probably didn't have it where you are, the California Raisins, and he was the voice of the raisin manager. I mean, he did some voiceover, basically because his own voice was just so fantastic.
Right.
He sounded like a New York hustler kind of guy, So anyway, they needed someone to play a janitor on the show, and I recommended him to John, and he went, "Do you think your dad would do it?" I go, "Of course he would do it. He would love to do it." So that was really fun. I love doing that.
I just like the image of, like, we need a janitor. I know the person.
I know a guy who could do it.
What is it? Why, it's a digital restitution and analyzer. A servo-control incendiary optometer. Makes coffee.
Yeah, he was kind of like a hustler janitor. Like, he was there after hours and he shouldn't have been there.
Right.
My dad will do this great.
So you play Mary Jane Watson, one of the most iconic characters in Spider-Man, but you also play one of the most iconic villains in Spider-Man, the animated series as well. Do you remember which villain you play, technically?
No, I don't. You know why? Because I only did it once, so I don't know.
Technically, you play Chameleon because you play a nurse, and Chameleon is disguised as her.
Now remember, Parker, if you don't lead us to Spider-Man, we'll go after her again. This time, she'll need the hospital bed.
Which I think is really cool because technically you play Mary Jane and one of the biggest villains, so it's cool how that technicality kind of works.
Oh, that's neat. I don't even remember that. Don't forget, we were done with the show, I think by 97, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Like
and,
late 90s.
It's been in reruns, and thank God Disney bought a lot of the things. So I'm grateful for that. But yeah, it was a while ago. But I should take a listen because I don't remember that. That's awesome.
It's still really good. Like, I grew up watching it, and it's weird watching it back, and it's like, wow, this is actually, like, it's still a great show.
Oh, yeah. You know why? Because the scripts were written by really good writers.
Yeah.
They hired really good actors. They didn't get, there's nothing against animation people. They're wonderful. But, they got really good theatrically trained actors. And the scripts were well written. We were directed like it was a play, and we rehearsed. And I think it shows. I think it shows up.
Yeah. Growing up, like I had the Spider-Man Green Goblin DVD, but also it was really cool rewatching it on Disney Plus, because it's like, yeah, this is sort of the only knowledge that I had of it, and it's like I've got to do research for this interview, and it's like, oh cool, it's on Disney Plus, I can just watch all the episodes.
Isn't that nice? I know. God bless you for getting that, because and there's a wonderful fan named Stuart Green who's been trying to get like a box set of the whole Spider-Man series done, and that, of course, I'm very supportive of that, as are the rest of the cast members. So hopefully that'll happen not before too long.
Yeah, I'd love to buy it. It'd be great just to have like a
I
physical
like to buy
box
it
set.
myself, because I do have, some episodes, little bits of the episodes, because people want to hear my voice or something. I can say, oh, listen to this, but I don't have the whole thing compiled, and we did a lot of episodes, so it'd be cool.
Yeah, it ran for like I think 4 or 5 years, so it had a good run.
It had a great run, and believe it or not, that it's still on occasionally. Disney Plus shows it, and then sometimes it turns up on the Me channel. So yeah, it's been a really great job.
How did you feel when? Well, obviously you would have felt bad. Do you still sort of feel annoyed at the fact that Mary Jane disappears into a portal and then the show ends like on a cliffhanger?
Well, that's why they keep thinking we're going to come back.
Yeah.
Because some fans are more upset than I am. I mean, I've lived life, I've traveled, But yes, when you think about it, it sort of left it open for something to have a sequel. So I really hope they get it together. I think the fans would love it, and we'd all love to do it. So yes, I agree.
I'd be really happy if they come back to it, because this DVD ends with her falling into the portal, and then I have no idea what happens afterwards, because she comes back as like a clone or something, and then that's not really Mary Jane.
Yeah.
And then there's no sort of resolution to that, so it's quite annoying.
It is. I know. I understand completely. Well, if everybody writes letters, if all your fans and all your listeners will write letters to Disney Plus, maybe they'll decide, or I don't know, would Disney Plus be the ones, whoever's producing it, to say they really should, do another season and wrap this up. That would be great.
So because she goes into the portal, and then I think a few episodes later she comes back just sort of good as new, and you don't know that she's a clone at that point. Did you know that twist? Did they pitch that plot twist to you that she's not actually the real Mary Jane, or did that surprise you when the twist comes out?
It surprised me. No, they didn't pitch it. You know, when you just showed up and you get the scripts. It's not like they send it to you ahead of time. You get the script, and you would sit in the green room and you could go over stuff. And then the director would have very specific ideas how certain lines should be done. So yeah, and also you never know it's the end when you're doing it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You don't know your last show's your last show.
Yeah.
You just assume there'll be more. So it was kind of like, oh, well, that's too bad, But we did think it was going to come back. So maybe we will.
Yeah. Was there much room for improvisation when you were doing the voice acting, or was it very strict in keeping to the dialogue?
Pretty strict to the dialogue, but you could, I had to scream a lot as Mary Jane. And sometimes we'd save the screams to the end of the day.
Yeah.
There'd be the snatching me from a corner scream, and there'd be the falling down a well scream, and then there'd be a dragging across, there were different screams. Yeah. They would take special time out. Everybody would leave. That's when I would be alone. Because nobody needed to hear that. And I would do these screams, for 20 minutes until my voice was sore, and then I could go home. But no, they pretty much stuck to the script. I mean, if you could throw in something, you'd have to have it approved, because they're, of course, writers. And they're pretty, they work hard to get their lines written and in the script. So
you can't change it too much, because you'll annoy people. So
yeah, and sometimes I'll get a TV audition, and it'll say, please do not improvise or add anything. Just say the lines as written. And I have studied improv. I was with the Groundlings for a few years. I want to improvise stuff if I think I could help it, but sometimes you just have to suck it up. Let the writers do their jobs and just act.
This really surprised me. So according to the Spider-Man wiki, when you auditioned, apparently Jennifer Tilly also auditioned for the voice of Mary Jane.
Yes, and I met her, and she really wanted to play Mary Jane. And I don't think she liked me very much because I got the part over her.
But I think maybe she was meant to get the Chucky movies, and she's just fine. So, I did a movie with her.
Oh, really?
I did a movie called Goose. I played her sister, and we didn't talk about the Spider-Man thing. In fact, I don't think she even really knew that I did Mary Jane. But I did the movie, I think it was like 97, and in New York, and Joan Rivers played our mother, and Robert Klein played our father, and it was directed by Alita Chappelle. I don't know if it's findable on Netflix, but I played her sister, and she's such a lovely person.
Right.
I think she's wonderful. But yeah, I heard on David Letterman too, she did this whole thing about, well, I can't believe I'm not playing Mary Jane Watson in Spider-Man.
So how come you didn't like rub her face in it? Be like, haha, I got this, I got the part.
Because I wanted to have a nice time on the movie. I was on location in New York, and I did not want it to be icky.
The first day you already upset her, and it's like just all downhill from there.
That'd be bad. She's lovely. She's a very nice person, and she's a wonderful actress and very generous.
Yeah.
I was just at the Saturn Awards, which are kind of like awards for horror films and sci-fi. And she was there with the guy who created Chucky. That's become such a great thing for her. She's a very good actress. I think she could do anything, but she didn't have to do Mary Jane because I did it.
If she annoyed you, you've always got that just to throw it
true.
out. Be like,
I could always
well, I'm Mary Jane and you're
there.
not. So
true. Oh gosh, life's too short. I figure we all get what we're supposed to get. It's too hard to be disgusted about things that didn't happen. I like to focus on things that do happen.
Yeah. So in an alternate universe, she does play Mary Jane, and you probably play Tiffany and Chucky. So how do you feel about that?
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. I think the Chucky movies are great.
Yeah.
They're really fun. I mean, they're scary as heck, but really fun. Good thinking, Kyle. You should be a producer.
I'll work on a screenplay and try and get it started.
Are you an actor as well, or any kind of performer?
Not really, no. I don't really like acting or performing. I do, you can't really see them, but there's guitars and stuff behind me, so I am working on
musician.
trying to make my own music. That I haven't made anything yet, but sort of still in the early stages. But yeah, it's mainly just interviewing, just to talk to people that are in some of my favorite childhood games and movies and stuff like that. So it's cool to see just what everyone's like behind the scenes and all of their memories on the shows.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
I made a documentary film called Troupers. It's Troupers, in case any of your listeners want to see it. And I interviewed, I did it with my partner, my creative partner, Dea Lawrence, and we interviewed a bunch of actors over 80 and 90 and asked them how they hung in there and how they managed to have these long careers. And we dealt with chapters of parental disapproval and the blacklist and different things that come up. Oh, being told you're too old. And, at 40, people get told they're too old, and then they have to live till 90. So what are you going to do? And how artists, and we did it partially for ourselves to inspire us to be able to hang in there and keep going and not give up and just do what we wanted to do. It's a very inspiring movie, even though a lot of the cast has gone on to heaven, actor heaven. It's a wonderful movie because, especially if you want to be an artist, you deal with so much negativity and so much rejection. And there are little clues from each of them about how you handle it and pivot. Pivot, it's a big word. How you pivot on that. Yeah. You might find that interesting.
Yeah. How can you watch it? Because I looked at the trailer last night.
It's on Amazon Prime.
It's Amazon. Cool.
You can see it right now on Amazon Prime.
Cool.
I'm going to spell it for you, because if you spell it wrong, you get another movie.
Oh, okay.
It's Troupers. If you spell it TROO, you get another movie altogether. So,
and that's less inspirational. So.
Well, I think it has more to do with, troopers in the war or something like that, troops. But yeah, it's very good. And you'll know some of the people in it.
Cool.
You'll recognize, I think, even though you're young, I think you'll recognize some of the artists.
Cool. I'll definitely check that out. I don't have Amazon Prime. I'll just use a free 30-day trial and check it out. So.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, if I had any DVDs left, who has DVDs anymore? But we did give out, we made 1,000. Yeah, do you? And you can play. What about VHS tapes? Can you play them?
Oh, yeah, I've got a VHS player. I don't buy VHSs nowadays, but I've still got plenty of VHSs.
I have some classic VHS movies that they didn't even put on DVD. And I keep thinking, I've got to have this put on DVD, and I haven't. So I have to do that. Yeah, because there's no way to hook up my VHS anymore to my smart TV.
Right.
It's not smart enough for a VHS player, apparently.
What were some of your, like, not to spoil the documentary, but what were some of your sort of fondest memories from doing Troupers?
Oh gosh, well, just know that it took 7 years for us to make.
Wow.
Yeah. And you're a musician. Do you know the name Rolf Kent?
It sounds a little familiar, but I don't know what they do.
He scored a lot of movies by Alexander Payne and others.
Right.
And I think he's British. I'm pretty sure he's British. And he, as a favor to us, he did our music score. Because even though we used some songs that were public domain, but then he also wrote special music for us. Because, when you make a documentary film, there is the interesting people talking, but you need to make it an experience. You don't just want to go talking head. So we had a lot of legal clips that we were able to get, and little tiny snatches, 30 seconds and under of their work. And he did the music, and it's just, well, my favorite part was just talking to the people. Some of the people we shot more than once. I shouldn't say shot, filmed. I can't say shot. Because we didn't know anything. We'd never made a movie before. We didn't know about lighting. We didn't know about sound. This beautiful actress you may not know named Jane Keane, she was Trixie on The Honeymooners. And she's a beautiful, blonde, beautiful woman. And the first time we filmed her, we were looking at the tape later, and we were like, oh my God, we can't use this. She's a beautiful woman, and we've made her look like dog food. So we made up a lie. We said, oh gosh, we didn't get the sound right, so we're gonna have to reshoot. And we went back and we learned how to hold a white screen and put the light right on her, and she just looked beautiful. So we learned as we went, and a couple of the artists are still alive, but basically they're all in that great Screen Actors Guild office in the sky. But their information is good. Well, we learned a lot from everybody, how to hang in there and how to not give up, and, just keep practicing your craft, keep getting better, keep learning, keep growing. Don't, go, well, this is as well as I can sing, or, I've taken acting for 2 years and I haven't made it, so maybe I'm not supposed to act.
Yeah.
You get rid of all that. You find a way. We all have to get scrappy. I mean, provided we don't have COVID. Oh my God. I think about how it's a blessing that my parents aren't here, because it would be so hard to have not been able to see them. I love my parents very much. It just would have been a really hard time.
Yeah.
So I think my father's in the documentary, but my mother, she was already gone. She already passed away. But someone said, well, is it all about your father? I said, no, we have many. A wonderful voice actress, Pat Carroll, the voice of Ursula in Little Mermaid.
Right.
She's in the doc. I mean, really, you'll enjoy it. I guarantee you'll enjoy it.
So where did the inspiration come from to start interviewing these sort of elderly actors and sort of try and get their story? Where did that mindset come from? Yeah.
Well, no one had done it yet. Now, a lot of people have done it since, I'll be honest with you, including like Carl Reiner and famous people who've gotten it on HBO and everything else. Our impetus really came from us feeling like, oh my God, we're going to be 40 and we haven't made it. And how are we gonna hang in there, And we interviewed this one actress named Justine Johnson, and it just started from there. And every single person that we chose, the only person I didn't get that I really wanted was Norman Lloyd, and he just passed away. Right. He was like 107.
Oh wow!
Had a really long career. If you look him up, wonderful actor. But pretty much we got everybody that we wanted, and we got inspiration from their stories and how they persevered. And the only impetus we had was to inspire ourselves, really. Yeah. We didn't even know we were making a feature. We thought it was going to be a 20-minute little short thing. It turned into 90 minutes, But that was just the way it went. So that's why it took so long. And money to edit, and, making it look good, sound good. If I were to make another movie, I know I could do better. I've learned a few things.
Right. You got more experience from the first one.
Absolutely, yeah. I admire these people who are making movies on their, iPhones.
Yeah.
I have a really nice iPhone. Maybe I'll make a movie too. I don't know. I'm learning how to do all these tricks on it, so we'll see. We'll see.
All right. If you need somebody to edit it, then I can do it. I don't know.
Really?
I don't know if I'm like documentary level editing, but I'm quite good at editing, I feel. So.
What do you edit on? Do you do Final Cut Pro? Or what
Premiere
is it
Pro.
called?
Yeah.
Oh, you do Premiere Pro?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll let you know.
So if you need like explosions and dinosaurs and stuff, I can edit them in front.
Wow. Well, behind this curtain,
Yeah.
I have my green screen.
Oh, cool.
For when I want to do other fun stuff, because I've been shooting a lot in the house. I mean, all during COVID.
Yeah.
I did a lot of little, shorts and stuff in the house. And then it's fun to do that and project different things on it.
Pretend you're in, space or underwater or something cool.
Yeah, no, I like all that.
Going back to voice acting, what were some of your sort of fondest memories from doing voice acting, whether it be Spider-Man or any of the other jobs that you had with voice acting?
Well, I think Spider-Man would probably have to be the most favorite because I did it the most. I did it the longest. So I had such lovely times. Ed Asner just passed away, and I got to be kind of close with him, and every actor who ever worked with him can only say the best things. He was even president of the Screen Actors Guild for a while, and before he passed, he was fighting the what they were doing with the health insurance for older members, and he's a lovely person. But he paid me a compliment one day, and I've said the story before, but we were working, one day, and he said, "You remind me of somebody." And I said, "Really? Who?" And he said, "Oh, I was in acting class with her at the Actors Studio years ago. You just have a quality that's like her." And I'm thinking, who? And he said, Marilyn Monroe. I went, "Marilyn Monroe? Are you kidding me?" He goes, "I'm not saying you look like her, but you have a kind of sweetness that she had in class." And of course, I fell in love with Ed right then. Who's ever going to tell me that again? So that was a beautiful moment. The other actor that I found him so sweet. He's married to Juliet Mills, and he was in Grease 2.
Maxwell Caulfield?
Yes,
Cool.
He was on Spider-Man 2.
Right.
And one of the things I really learned or noticed about him was every break we had, he was on the phone calling her and telling her about his shoot and his day and what are you doing. And I just thought such love. I mean, it was just, I don't know. I just thought they had a beautiful relationship, and I was aware of it. Oh, at the time Stahli came, that was pretty big.
When was that?
Yeah. Well, he came to a couple of the recordings, but the best time was when we got to go to Comic-Con, and he came in the limo to pick up me and Christopher Barnes, and we drove to San Diego to Comic-Con. And of course, we're walking in and everybody's dressed up and all these characters, and people don't really know who Chris and I are, but they know who Stahli is. And oh my God, and that was a thrill. And he was a doll, and he was such a nice guy. He's also a member of the Magic Castle. Well, he was,
Right.
He passed away. But another place I'm very involved in is the Magic Castle. And so way after Spider-Man, I got to see him there and say hello and remind him of who I was. And he wrote some nice things to me. And,
Nice.
Well, that was thrilling. It was thrilling.
It's good to hear nice things about Stahli because, clearly I am a big Marvel fan, so it's good to hear, reassuring stories.
He was a doll, and actually he knew who my dad was. My dad was a magician. Stan totally knew who my father was very impressed, because I got hired without them knowing who my father was, of course. And then when he found out, he was so, "Oh my God, I love your father." So that made me super happy.
What are some of your fondest memories, not from voice acting, but just sort of general acting, either some of the movies that you've worked on in the past or Troupers, sort of what were some of the fondest on-camera acting moments?
Well, I mean, it's more about the experience of the whole thing. I did something recently, The Bride of Finkelstein, which there's a series of these movies, and Biffle and Schuster is this imaginary comedy team from the 30s. And this brilliant guy, Michael Schlesinger, writes these movies. And this was one of the shorts in the in the oeuvre, where I played the Bride of Finkelstein, which is a parody of the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Loved working on it. Loved the people. Loved the whole experience. How can you not love working on a movie where there's a gorilla who has to, like, you know, pick you up and throw you out a window? I mean, it was great. But when I was 18, Brian De Palma came to my college, Immaculate Heart College, and he was casting a film called Phantom of the Paradise, which has become a huge cult film all these years later in Canada, in Quebec and Montreal, and there's all these fan clubs for it. And now I just started, because some of the people have passed away. But Paul Williams did the music, and it's a takeoff in Phantom of the Opera, but it was set in the rock and roll world.
Oh, cool.
And it was an early Brian De Palma film, and it's become, all of a sudden, you know, it's a big deal. And so I'm really happy I got to do that. I was pretty young. He came, and I was being like a tree and a snake in a Grotowski workshop, and he said, "Oh, I think you'd be fun to work with." Like, okay, I'll go to Dallas, Texas for 6 weeks. Bye. I'm out of here. And it turned out to be really fun. And if you see the movie, if you rent it, that's easy to find.
Right.
I can tell you all the scenes I'm in, because they used me in a bunch of scenes, because I could dance and I wasn't afraid to, you know, wear a bikini. There, I was 18, you know,
right.
Different times.
What are some of the things that you have sort of planned for the future? Do you have any projects that you're working on now? Or?
Well, I'll tell you, at this point in life, I am very involved with Shakespeare. And this is something I'd wanted to do when I was much younger. And as I say, I studied in England. I really thought this is going to be something I'm going to do. But I spent the whole COVID time on Zoom in 2 different Shakespeare workshops. We did a Zoom production of Midsummer Night's Dream recently, where I played Titania. And I just recently did a Shakespeare audition for the festival in Utah. I'm hopeful that in the next few months I will be able to do a Shakespearean play.
Cool.
That's where I've been putting my energy. I audition for cartoons all the time. Don't get me wrong. Love to do another cartoon. Love to do another cartoon. That would be, that would help me fuel my passion for Shakespeare, which doesn't pay anywhere near as well.
Right.
But I have a passion to do it. So that's important. But yeah, I'd love to do another cartoon. I audition quite a bit. One of them's bound to click.
Yeah.
I'm in a theater company. I work on different pieces. I'm in a magic club. I serve on their board of directors. I like to help guide the club and the future. And it's a 100-year-old building, Kyle. If you ever come to LA, you should look it up, the Magic Castle.
All right, I'll check it out next time. Well, I've never been to LA, so if I go to LA, I'll definitely check it out. So.
Oh, well, you've got to come. You've got to come to LA. Yeah, the Magic Castle is an incredible, there's nothing else like it.
Yeah.
It's a private clubhouse for magicians, and it's turned into a 50-year fantastic club for non-magicians to come appreciate magicians, and for magicians to come and hang out and workshop and you know, show each other tricks and get tips and pointers, and it's just great. Restaurants, bars, 100-year-old building. I mean, it's cool.
I did kind of go through a phase where I really liked magic and learnt a few tricks, so I'm not
Would
like...
you like to do one now?
Oh, I don't have a deck of cards, sorry. I could do that. That's not really, it's not really magic.
I saw Jeff Goldblum the other night on Stephen Colbert, and he did 3 really good rope tricks.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah,
I mean, I believe the guy, he could do anything.
Yeah,
right?
I never understood the rope tricks. They always just went right over my head, so...
I mean, just sitting there out of nowhere, he did a knot, fell right out, another knot, fell right out, and then he just held the rope and went like this, and it was knotted. I mean, he was skilled. He had some skill.
Cool. Do you know any magic? Or?
I do a few things, because, well, I should have learned magic. I mean, my father was a magician.
Yeah.
And I always thought everybody's father had cards in their hands, because my dad always had a deck of cards in his hands. But I'd go to my friend's house to play and go, "Where's your dad's cards?" And they're like, "What?" But he tried to teach me, I'll admit it, and I'd be like, "But Dad, I have my ballet lesson." "But Daddy, I have my acting class." You know, I was stupid, that's all I can tell you. But a year and a half, right before COVID, I did my father's act at the Magic Castle. for 6 nights between Christmas and New Year's, and that was kind of like my homage to him. And I faked a lot of it, but it was super fun.
How do you mean you faked it?
Well, his act was consisted of doing magic that did not work.
Right.
So even with it not working, you have to be very clever in how you arrange it to not work. So I had been around enough as a kid to see what happened, and I knew some things. So I figured it out, and I did it. It was super fun.
Yeah, I don't think I own a deck of cards. Not one that has all of, like, because over the years I've lost a couple of cards, so it's like, you know, instead of 52, it's like 43 or something like that. So I could, if I found a deck of cards, I could do it for you, but I don't think I have any. So I'm sorry. If I find a deck of cards, I'll record it and send it to you.
I'm not judging, dude. I just thought for your own fun. It's, you know what, a lot of the magicians that I talk to, because I'm friends with a lot of them, they learned magic when they were kids, when they were sick.
Right.
Like one guy had scoliosis, and the year that he spent in bed having his spine straightened is how he learned all the card magic.
Right.
You know, it takes being alone. You kind of have to be a loner kid in a dark room, just spending hours, because it's, you know, it takes skill and it takes practice. And if you're an extroverted kid and you want to be out playing, you're probably not going to learn magic. It attracts a certain niche of people that more introverted people, but then you have to perform. It's an interesting mix.
Yeah, it's a weird. It's like with music as well. Like a lot of a lot of musicians are introverts, and then they go on stage and play to hundreds of people, and it's like, it's a weird sort of mix of the two.
I think it's a dichotomy. I think that's the word, but we can look it up.
How did you sort of research for the role of Mary Jane? Did you watch like the 60s comic, or did you the 60s cartoon, or did you read the comics, or did you just go into it?
I read the comics, and also when I've told this story before, but I auditioned for the first time in October, and then I had what they call a callback in February.
Oh, okay.
So once I had the callback, I thought, well, I really should bone up on this character, you know, so I understand her. Then I didn't hear anything. That was February, March, April, May. And I'm out of town. I'm like in Seattle with my girlfriend. And I get a email. Hey, Sarah, we'd like you to come in Friday and read with some of the potential Peter Parkers. And I thought, well, isn't that nice? They didn't hire me, but they want to use me as a reader for the other actor. That's nice. But I'll do that. That's fun. So I show up and I read with Brian Austin Green from Beverly 90210. Oh, yeah. And I read with, I think it was Tim Daly, and then Dean Cain, and then Christopher Barnes. And then they actually said to me, who did you like working with the best? I thought, why would that matter? But I said, you know, I think Chris Barnes really had the character and really had the sensitivity. And I said, I liked him the best. And then a week later, we were hired. So it took from like October to May. And I was thrilled to pieces. I certainly had not any hope in hell. You know, when you audition for things, you usually know within a week if you got them, or if it's TV, sooner, you know. So I just put it on the back burner. I went, well, that was a nice experience, you know, la, 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 on to the next, on to the next. And then to get it, I was like, woo! I was super happy.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk Spider-Man, talk voice acting, talk Troupers, just talk sort of your general career. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was very fun. You're very easy to talk to. I think you have a bright future, my dear. In interviewing. I think you did a wonderful job.